Flipper Baby Productions presents the Cinema Shame podcast.
Everything begins with the shot. But then you add to that the cut itself. Each shot coming together as one continuous moment. The size of the people and the objects in the frame as they relate to the moments in the story and the emotions of the characters. Add to that the movement of the camera. Creates a very different kind of sensation. Now you add color, and the color tells a story too. And then you get the sizes of the frame itself. But all of this painstaking work and this artistry, this development of the art form, it's all in danger. Film stocks are fragile, so it needs to be preserved and protected. We need to keep watch over it so that future generations will be able to trace this extraordinary century-long development of visual language right back to the very beginning.
No matter what you think you've seen, you'll find it's not enough. No matter what you think you know, you won't get through. Lordy, it's a cinematic work to rise your smock above the kirk. But no matter where you hide or what you moan at you, no matter how that film is shown, what always ends the same. Below the screen with fire to sane, west downtown, where you can feel for real as you kick up every heel. But no matter what you do, they're gonna take you down. Lord, it's a shamedown, blame town, tame down. Everybody wants another crowded line. All men, all 10, fall 10, you are busted.
This is the Cinema Shame podcast. My name is James Patrick. We're going to have a little different format today. Today, my guests are the co-directors of the Nitrate Picture Show in Rochester, New York, Deborah Stoiber and Jared Case. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about what you do for the picture show and the museum in general?
My normal day-to-day duties are as curator of film exhibitions for the museum. We do have a repertory theater that we run as part of the museum called Dryden Theater, which has been open for 68 years now, running fairly continuously, and we have a nightly program of both new, foreign, and independent films as well as classic films. And our charge is to present as many of these things in their original formats as possible. So we do a lot of 35 millimeter screenings. Obviously, the newer films are on DCP when we get them, but we love to show things on 35 millimeter because we are a museum of photography and film. Film on film, the original artifact, which leads into the beginnings of the Nitrate Picture Show as those original artifacts that we believe still can be seen and shown and should be, as there's still life in those prints.
My name is Deborah Stoiber. I'm the collection manager in the Moving Image Department here at the George Eastman Museum and co-director of the Nitrate Picture Show. My day-to-day activities for the museum is overseeing the film and video collection that we have here on site. We actually have 3 offices around the city of Rochester, including the main one at the museum, which has our safety film collection. About 77,000 reels are located here at the museum. We also have our nitrate vaults, which are located just outside the city of Rochester, where we have about 24,000 reels of nitrate motion picture film on site. And then we have a third facility, which opened up in August of 2017. And this is where we are storing all of our Indian cinema and Pakistani cinema collections, which we recently acquired just a few years ago. So overall, we have about 110,000 reels of film that I oversee. And I also take a look at all new acquisitions coming into the collection to see if they meet our mission statement and if they are in good enough shape for archival access and preservation purposes. For the festival, I do a lot of work with the programming of the films in terms of looking at the actual collection material to see if it is projectable, if it meets our standards for projection. And I do a lot of the work behind the scenes for helping to set up the volunteers, help set up the program, working on a lot of different areas for the signage and the advertising for the Nitrate Picture Show.
And as the title suggests, you're working with nitrate film.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if the casual film viewer knows anything about nitrate film, they know that it's combustible.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what special handling is required for what you do with the nitrate film?
Most of what we do, it's built into the building codes for storage of nitrate. We have to meet the National Fire Protection Association rules set for North America. And these rules are set actually by Monroe County, which is where we live in New York State. And this is very, very specific in terms of how the design of the vaults are made. There's no wood in the building. There's no, films must always be stored above ground. They cannot be in the basement. The collection is also stored with no movable shelving. There's very specific fire codes for fire suppression, blowout doors. Although water will not put out a nitrate fire, we are required by law to have sprinklers in the vaults, and we have to test that system every 4 months. The collection overall is treated pretty much the same as you would with any other film collection, but what we've discovered with nitrate over the decades is that the material can be very brittle, and the material can show more signs of decay. And those signs of decay are actually very obvious when you are inspecting nitrate. There's a heavy, wet odor smell to them if they're decaying. Quite often the films become very sticky, they become very shrunken. And not all nitrate does this, though. And a lot of people think, oh, it's nitrate, it's old, it's going to fall into pieces. And part of what we're trying to do with this festival is to say, well, they're not always in bad shape. Some of them are still quite beautiful. They still look the way they did when they were projected 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago. So we're having ourselves, as well as other archives around the world, pull out those wonderful prints, and we're showing them to show what conservation can do, what the cool temperatures, and what archivists really do with these materials. They're not just locked up into the vault forever and ever. They're locked up in cold storage for a very good reason, to keep them, to maintain them, and make them last for future generations. And because we are the only cinema or theater on the East Coast that can still show nitrate film, we took this as a great opportunity to highlight what conservation is, what we do as archivists, and what audiences of today are missing from what people used to see in our parents' generation or grandparents' generations.
So it doesn't just explode, is what you're saying?
No, it doesn't explode. To make it explode, you see movies like *Inglourious Bastards*, or you see movies like *Cinema Paradiso*, and the way that they look, it is Hollywood. It is trying to make it look very, very scary, and it can be very scary when you see a nitrate film burn. I do burn some in the parking lot of our conservation center to show students, like, what does a nitrate fire look like. And actually, if you go on YouTube, you can see examples of it, everywhere. People putting nitrate under water and trying to set it on fire, and you see the water boil away. I mean, it gets very hot very, very quickly. But what movies also do is they want to make it very, very dramatic when things catch on fire. But to really set something on fire, you have to seal it in a can for like weeks on end, and it has to already be decomposing, and you need to put it in a place where it's like 100 degrees or more over several weeks of time, and then maybe you might have something happen. It's actually considered a class 4 flammable solid, if you really want to get technical.
Absolutely, we love the technical.
Yeah, let's get really technical. It's a class 4 flammable solid by shipping standards, which is very, very low when you're looking at other things that we ship, here in the United States and around the world. Like number 1 would be fireworks. That is the number 1 most dangerous flammable thing out there that humans make. So compared to things like that, nitrate really isn't all that bad. As long as you treat it with respect, it will be very nice right back to you.
My first experience with a nitrate film was the film you presented at the Turner Classic Movie Film Festival
2017. I remember because I remember meeting you because you were walking down the street. I think you were with your father-in-law.
Yes.
And I had I got to the TCM festival, and my luggage was nowhere to be found. And actually, I didn't have my luggage for 8 days. But I saw you guys walking down the street, and I was like, well, they look friendly. I'm just going to go up and say hi.
We're super friendly.
They're super friendly. And you were like my first introduction to people at the TCM festival, because I was hungry and I was lost, and you guys took me under your wing. You did. You took me under your wing, and you
I just had a breakfast place.
Yeah, you found me a breakfast place and talked to me about what to expect with the festival, and that's what I love about film festivals is that you get to meet really great people like that, and you all have a love for cinema together, and get to see some really good films with other cinema lovers. So yeah.
And that was The Man Who Knew Too Much.
Yes.
Yes. So that was my first experience watching a Nitrate film, and it has a different quality to it when you're viewing it on a big screen versus a standard film print. A lot of people say that it's just the mind playing tricks on you, and then other people say, no, there's absolutely, positively a difference in the way a film looks on Nitrate. Now, what is your experience, and why do you love the way Nitrate looks?
Well, it's a great example to start with, The Man Who Knew Too Much. Particularly with the black and white, and I don't want to be heretical or anything, but I think it's actually more to do with the emulsion that's on the Nitrate film than the clarity of the Nitrate film itself. They were using so much more silver in their emulsions in the black and white films back then that you got a greater range, a greater depth, a greater contrast, greater sharpness with these black and white films that they were making in the Nitrate era than you would get from the same sort of thing that was shot in the safety era, or certainly of dupes of those same films that were made onto safety stock, because the silver content just wasn't as high in those films. So when you watch something like The Man Who Knew Too Much, or Casablanca, or these other noir films, or even Bachelor in the Bobby Soxer, you get a great depth with these black and white films that you don't see either through the safety films or through digital projection. And with the color films, most of the color that we show is original Technicolor imbibition. So you've got the 3 strips negative that was used to make the matrices, which were then dipped into the dye and actually imbibed onto the film. Those colors fade at a much slower rate than the actual color emulsion that we use now. So you're getting a truer sense of what the color was originally when they saw it back in the first half of the 20th century than you would ever get with anything now.
You're getting the original dyes. If you come to the museum, and when you see this when you're here, we have a huge wall up of Technicolor dyes. And it's like a huge spot where a lot of people like to take selfie photos in front of it, because there's over 1,700 bottles of powdered dyes that Technicolor was using to try out to create different dyes over the span of about 50 years. And this is only a sample of what has been donated by the Technicolor and the Kalmus family, or is it Andreas family? Family, both Kalmus and Andreas families. So when you see an original Technicolor, especially on Nitrate, you're getting those original dye pigments that were chosen by the Technicolor colorists and were selected to give what was the artist's intentions when making those films. And that's what I think really makes those stand out. With the black and white, also, when you're looking at films like Casablanca or The Man Who Knew Too Much, you're looking at a copy that's closer to the original negative. When we look at films today through preservation, and even when you're seeing things on television, quite often it's much farther generation away from the original. And when we did Casablanca that first year, that print we showed was off the original negative, which unfortunately the original negative of Casablanca no longer exists. It was actually destroyed in the 1970s. So when you look at Nitrate, you're also looking at the quality of the Nitrate film stock, the celluloid itself, but which actually has a little bit more of a, what people say, more of a yellow or warmer tone than safety stock. Acetate tends to have much more of a bluer hue to it, which is a colder feel. But you're also looking at things that are more of what the detail that was originally intended to be seen on a big screen.
The visible depth in the print does seem to give it we call it like a three-dimensional perspective on screen, but it really is just the enhanced detail. The movie that probably shocked me the most in terms of the difference in what I had seen versus the way it was presented on screen was when they showed Black Narcissus.
This is the story of a high endeavor that tried and tested a woman in the remote background of Asia. The story of a prince and a beggar maid, and of a nun who gave up her vows.
Why should we want to keep you here against your will? Because you're all jealous of me. Especially you.
The clash of strong personalities.
I understood you wanted to see me.
We want to talk to you on business.
Suppose you want to talk to me on anything else. Sorry.
I don't know why you are being so rude to me, Mr. Dean. I have to talk business with you, whether I like it or not.
The contrast of present peace and self-denial with the rich memories of the full years that have passed. They renounced the world of men, but found that the world was not to be denied.
I gave up my vows. I finished with them up there.
I see.
I love you. I had to have the young general. I couldn't turn out the holy man. I couldn't stop the wind from blowing and the air from being as clear as crystal, and I couldn't hide the mountain.
I told you it was no place to put a nunnery.
I was lukewarm on the film until I saw it projected on Nitrate up on that massive screen, and I gotta admit I was in probably the third row, so it was right there.
Yeah.
But that was sort of a transcendent cinematic experience for me. Now, why does that have such an impact on Nitrate? We were talking about the colors a little bit, but why did that film pop like it did on screen?
A lot of people have said that to us over the years. When we showed Black Narcissus here, people were walking out and their eyes were just bugging out, like they just couldn't believe what they had just seen. And how would you describe the experience, Jared?
Well, I think that particularly when we go into watching a film, we carry with us the baggage of what we've seen before. Nobody has the ability to go through film history in chronological order on the original way it was seen. So what we're bringing with us is the impressions that we had before, whether it was on TV or VHS or DVD or Blu-ray. All of those are additive processes. You're not seeing the shadows that are being cast on the screen. You're only getting light. So it's the red, green, and blue dots that are creating the color, as opposed to watching anything on film where you start with white light and the film is actually taking away what it doesn't want you to see. It's creating shadows on screen or filtering out the colors that it doesn't want you to see to create that image on screen. So, I mean, when you consider it's nitrate, it's the original dyes, and it hasn't been enhanced for your TV screen or for a DCP transfer, and you're seeing the original, that is the artist's intent, not any sort of recreation of that down the line. And when you are working with artists, or you're seeing the work of artists from the first half of the century when it was this factory and they had so many craftsmen that were working full-time doing this kind of stuff, that work really comes out on the original artifacts, whether it's safety or nitrate prints.
You can do as much as you can digitally now, but when you see it...
Well, you can do as much as you can digitally, but then if you're gearing it towards a consumer market, you're also trying to make it look good on the screen that they're going to be seeing it on, not necessarily true to the original artifact.
Yeah. It looks good on my iPod. Great. That must be good enough for me. No, I'm going to do a little teaser for this year. When we were doing we do pre-screenings of all of our nitrate because before we show it to the audience, we want to make sure that the prints are complete, that the sound is good. Quite often prints that do end up in archives are rejection prints from studios and laboratories where things just sort of fade away. Or things have been cut out for censorship reasons is the number one reason why films are incomplete in archives today. But when we were doing this pre-screening for a film that we are showing here on Sunday, there's a scene in there where the detail is so perfect. And I was sitting, we have a 500-seat theater with a balcony. And I sit in the very back row of the balcony when we do these pre-screenings, and Jared sits in the very front because we want to make sure the sound is good both in the front and the back, and we want to see how the focus is from the front and the back. I'm sitting in the back, and there's a scene, and I'm just going to see if anybody can figure out the film, but there's a woman, and she's wearing a stocking, and the stocking gets a run in it, and this boy walks by, and he says, "Lady, you got a run in your stocking." And she looks, she goes, oh, this is my last good pair. And she looks at them, and I'm in the back, and I can see the run perfectly in her stocking, and I can see the weave of the silk stocking from that far away. And I wear glasses, and I had, but they're not that strong, but I mean, I could see it from the back of the balcony. That is how crystal clear this print is. And when I talked to other people in the theater watching it with us, they all said they'd seen, one lady said she had seen this film before, but she had never seen that detail. She thought it was a joke, that there really wasn't a run in the stocking, but the other lady was just saying, oh, it's my last pair, like she was trying to get the boy to buy her a new pair. She didn't realize there really was something going on in her costume. And that made me realize, okay, this is another reason why we show nitrate film, so people can really see what it is that's going on in these prints.
Sure, in a situation like that, it completely changes the intent of the scene.
Yep.
So it's not deception.
Yeah.
So it changes her character and her motivations,
yeah,
based on just the detail that you're seeing in the frame.
Yeah, so I really thought she, watching the movie in the past, I was like, oh, she's just trying to get him to buy her some new stockings. Hey. No, she did a run on the stocking. And that just seems so minor, but as Jared was saying, it completely changes your perspective of what a movie looks like. And if you're just used to seeing movies, of one certain way, we really encourage people to try the old-fashioned way. There's nothing wrong with going back in time. And with this festival, it is going back in time, because there's no phones, there's no digital special effects, there's no DCPs, and it's going and sitting, and I will flat out say this, you're sitting with a bunch of other film nerds just like you, and you're having a really good time together. And like the way we met, you could be from completely different parts of the country doing completely different jobs, but you're going to find you have something in common with them. And it's like making 500 friends in one weekend, and all you have to have in common is you like watching movies.
Yeah, it's an entirely different audience. People complain about the state of modern cinemas and the experience of going to the movies, and all that is taken out of the situation, out of the scenario when you go to these film festivals, because everyone really wants to be there. It's not, especially when you're talking about something as expensive as the Turner Classic Movie Festival, which, yeah. I mean, the hotel, the tickets, the getting there, everything is a kind of a bank breaker for a lot of people. And yeah. But they set it aside and they go there because this is the one thing that they want to do, because you cannot recreate the experience of seeing a movie with thousands of people who really want to be there.
Yeah.
And especially these films, which you have a built-in appreciation already. There's context to them. A lot of people have seen them, a lot of people haven't, and the people who've seen them are, they're watching it again because it's a phenomenal experience, and their enthusiasm feeds the enthusiasm for new viewers. And it's really not like anything you've seen unless you've done one of these.
It's totally different experience. One thing that we do here is that we just have one venue. And it doesn't matter, all pass holders get access to the same screenings in the same venue. So, and we don't oversell. So you don't have to stand in line and thinking, oh, am I going to get in? Am I going to get in? You will get in. You will be able to grab a seat, sit back, relax, and enjoy some really good cinema.
And it's much more affordable than LA.
Yeah, much more affordable than LA.
That's true.
Yeah. And we do get people in from all over the world who do come to the festival.
Thailand, Australia,
Canada,
big contingent from Canada, from South America, from Europe. They come all over the world because the opportunity to see nitrate film projected is so rare. I mean, we're actually lucky in the United States to have 4 places in this large country that can actually screen nitrate film. And we claim that we cover the eastern 90% of the country because the other 3 are all in California. So anybody that wants to see nitrate film, they're going to have a chance in a concentrated weekend-long setting to see films from all over the world. Last year we had a film. Was it last year we had a film from Japan? Or was it 2 years ago?
Okay, it's 2 years
Japan, Austria, Norway, Sweden, Mexico,
Czechoslovakia,
Russia. They come from all over the place. And when you see something at TCM, it's going to be primarily American films. This is a much broader ranging program that includes as many nationalities as we can, because it's not just American archivists that have been working for 8 or 10 decades to make sure that these films are safe and taken care of and able to be projected. It's archivists from around the world. We really want to honor all of them, which is why we have guest speakers come in and talk about their experiences every year. So we've had everyone from David Bordwell to Kevin Brownlow, archivists, historians, academics, and we've got 2 from Great Britain this year, David Walsh, who works at the Imperial War Museum, and Elaine Burrows, who's retired from the BFI, who have worked a lot with nitrate film and have stories that they can share. The good ones and the bad ones, the amazing things that they found and the tragedies, the things that, maybe they saw something and it was the last time it was ever going to be screened. I think everybody who works with nitrate has been through that kind of experience. It's like, this one is just past the point where it can be used again. And there's that sort of bittersweet feeling where I got to see it or I got to work with it, but I know that I'm not going to be able to share this experience with others.
One of the beautiful things about your festival is that you also don't know what you're getting when you're going there. You buy the ticket and you have no idea what you're going to get to see. And I know some people might find that resistant, but I think it's wonderful because you don't have any time to worry about what's showing or what's not showing this year, and you just kind of sit down and you get exposed to whatever it is you're going to show.
Yes, and it's all in one place. So it's not like you have to make last-minute decisions once you get here. It's all going to be in the one theater. I think you do get a sense of what we show. We've had certain patterns that we've followed over the years. The first 4 years, I think every year we've had sort of a Sunday morning noir. The last 3 years we've had a shorts program, so we can use that to bring in other things like avant-garde films or animation or even animated musicals, if we're talking about California, Here I Come, documentaries, all kinds of different things that you wouldn't necessarily see. That's where we've shown actually the oldest films that we've shown in the festival is in that shorts program. A couple of years ago, we had a film from the Museum of Modern Art from 1913. It was, I think, 103 or 104 years old at the time, and that actually made it through our projectors, and we were very happy to show the silent film on nitrate film. And one from our collection last year was 100 years old. It was from 1918, made just after World War I to recruit people into the Navy. And that had some gorgeous shots of tinting and toning as well. And with the American classics and with the foreign surprises sometimes that come to us, I think there's a general expectation of what you're going to see. It's just the specific titles from year to year we hold back.
So yeah, I love doing the cartoons and the shorts. I like doing California, Here I Come, because it had the bouncy ball, and everybody in the audience was supposed to sing along. I was singing, and I'm a terrible singer, but I remember that song growing up, and not a lot of people were singing with me, but oh well, it was fun. And we do cartoons and all kinds of experimental films in the shorts program. But yeah, people after a while, they know they're going to get a little bit of everything. They're probably going to get some. They're going to get some drama. They're going to get some comedies. They're going to get probably something they've never seen before. If it's not in the shorts program, probably a feature. And they might get a chance to see something that they knew they should have seen in the past, but they never got around to. So you wouldn't believe how many people said they had never seen Casablanca until we had put it in the first year.
You're right. I don't believe anybody at this point hasn't seen it. So.
Yeah, they're saying, oh, I've never seen it. And they're like, oh, yeah, I think it was our theater manager at the time said he had never seen it.
It's true cinema shame.
That's true cinema.
Absolutely. I still haven't had anybody come forward and say they haven't seen it to get on the show. I mean, I had a Citizen Kane episode, but I still haven't had a Casablanca confession.
If that plane leaves the ground and you're not with him, you'll regret it. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon and for the rest of your life.
But what about us?
We'll always have Paris. We didn't have, we lost it until you came to Casablanca. We got it back last night.
When I said I would never leave you.
And you never will. But I've got a job to do, too. Where I'm going, you can't follow. What I've got to do, you can't be any part of. Ilse, I'm no good at being noble, but it doesn't take much to see that the problems of 3 little people don't amount to a hill of beans in this crazy world. Someday you'll understand that. No. He's looking at you, kid.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
No.
Well, there's fewer of them now. We took care of that.
Right. Yeah. You just got to round them up all at once and just put them in the theater and then show it to them.
There you go.
Yeah, pretty much.
But it also allows us to bring in several different types of color processes. So we've shown tinted films, toned films, 2-strip Technicolor, 3-strip Technicolor, Cinecolor. And actually, we had a print last year from UCLA of Holiday, which they didn't know at the time was actually toned. So it was the sepia tone print all throughout, just like the beginning and ending of The Wizard of Oz. It's got that sepia tone look throughout the film. And again, it changes your perception because there is that color aspect to it that changes the way that you look at it. It's not just black and white, and specifically with the digital and with the safety, it can be cold, but this sepia tone actually warmed it up even more. So it made it more inviting and enhanced the relationships in the film, I thought.
Let's look at last year's program briefly, so people can get a taste of what they're in store for if they decide to come to the Nitrate Picture Show this year. So, as you listen, there's a number of shorts, and going through those would be a little tedious, but that's something that is definitely a treat to see. Is these shorter films that just aren't available. They're not something you can pop up on YouTube and have a gander at. There's also the features program. You had Summer Interlude from Ingmar Bergman, 1951. As you said, you showed the rare sepia tone print of Holiday, which I didn't know was a thing. That's I would have loved to have seen that. I do really enjoy that movie. You had Razor's Edge, Edmund Goulding, 1946.
Yeah, that is one that I think
print.
that people really rediscovered. I don't know how much damage the 1980s Bill Murray version did, but that was a great film.
Yeah, that one was incredible. That came from the Academy Film Archive.
I think the Bill Murray one has mostly slipped into obscurity by now. That was.
Yeah.
It's just me.
Let's see, what else is on? Mist on the Moors, Czechoslovakian movie from 1943.
Yeah.
Winchester 73, which is also showing at the... that and Holiday are showing at the TCM Festival this year. So you beat them to the punch.
Yeah. But if you get a chance, if you're going this year, you should go see. If you're going to TCM this year, you really should see Holiday. It's that sepia tone, and it's really fascinating to see it with that kind of warmth and affection in the celluloid.
So they are showing the same print.
I would
I'm
think it would
assuming
have
they
to
would
be.
Yeah. So I think it's the only nitrate print we know of that's projectable. So I'm sure it's the same one, and I think it came from
UCLA.
So it's right down the street from from the Egyptian Theater.
In Winchester, that was our first Western, so we do try to expand the genres to try to find things that we haven't shown before. We haven't shown a horror film yet or a science fiction film.
But we're looking.
Yeah,
we're really looking. Because that would be really awesome.
Yeah.
I'd love to do something.
Universal.
I'd love to do something with Peter Lorre in one of his early, like The Man Who Knew Too Much was his first
King
English
Kong.
film, but you could do, or King Kong or something. That would be awesome if we could find something. Yeah, we're working on it. We are working. But after Winchester 73, we did do the Red Shoes, which we talked about.
That was a much talked about. I know many people that were talking about that screening.
And that's something that we have in our own collection. And when we started doing the first Nitrate Picture Show, it's one that we looked at, but it had some sound problems. And we just didn't think it was worth it. Since then, we have found ways to address our sound problems. There's something called an A-chain alignment. Again, getting really nerdy, where you...
we love it. We love it here. We love the nerdiness.
You align the light that it acts as the sound reader before it goes through the film and into the sound head where it transfers it into sound. And if you don't have that lined up exactly correctly, you're going to get either the perfs on one side or the picture and the lines in between the frames on the other side. So that's being picked up in the sound. If you don't have it perfectly aligned, you're going to get that. So we've figured out how to make that adjustment within the projectors, which helps. But then there were still problems. So luckily, we do have, as part of our collections, films on deposit from Martin Scorsese. And he has another nitrate print of the Red Shoes, which also can't be used in full because it's got some damage, particularly in the reel that has the ballet sequence. So we couldn't use that one and we couldn't use ours. But by cobbling those together, we did come up with a complete print that showed beautifully. And we actually used that as our holiday film. We'd have a sort of a nitrate screening in December to sort of promote the fact that the passes are on sale again and to give people a sense of what they would be able to see as part of the Nitrate Picture Show. So we did show that again in December, and that may be the last time. I don't think, based on the way that fits together, I don't think that's ever going to leave. So that's the only place you could see it is here.
I think that film was also on variable density, which lining up that sound head, this is really nerdy technical again. There's basically two kinds of sound for nitrate. Everything's mono, but there's variable density and variable area optical soundtracks. And variable area, they did coexist at the same time, but variable density came out first, and it didn't have as much bass. And we found that if it's not perfectly aligned in the projector, you do miss, and you get a lot of noise, background noise with it. Variable area doesn't have quite the same issues with it. So I think that was a thing with Red Shoes. What we discovered was with those variable density nitrate tracks on nitrate film stock, it has to be very, very, very precisely aligned to make it work. So we were learning as we were going along too. Another reason why we do these pre-screenings and we check everything is we want to make sure that we're getting as close to the original experience as possible for the audiences, and that they get to hear and see and feel what the film is really like.
Now, before we get into trying to sell people and going to this year's festival, let's talk about your blind date feature that you show.
Okay.
Because I was just reading about that, and I have some questions.
Okay.
So, according to the website, the blind date is a mysterious encounter with a cinematic treasure you will not forget.
Yeah.
Yes. What, without removing the mystery, what is the blind date?
It is the purest expression of what we're trying to do with the festival, which is that people who are attracted to coming to see nitrate film want to experience nitrate film, no matter what it is. That's why they come from around the world. So we don't announce the schedule until that first day of the festival so that people can buy individual screening tickets if they want to. But going into something blind, knowing and trusting the programmers of this festival that you're going to see something that you've never seen before, and I'm based on what we have lined up, I'm sure that nobody in the audience has seen this anyway. Well, maybe some people from Britain. I don't know. Anyway.
That's a tease.
Yeah.
But going into something blind and knowing nothing about it, there's no preconceptions. You don't have time to do research. You don't have time to look at reviews and figure out who's going to be in it and anything.
You don't have time to make up your own mind on what you're going to experience. There's no preconceived notions of what you're about to go into. So you basically, it's going in blind. It's basically going in and sitting down and waiting to see what happens. And we find that people really enjoy that experience. In the program, we always put in a photograph from the film, but it's such an obscure image, and then it's fun to hear people try to guess what the film is based on the image. And you get some wild guesses based on the image. But everybody's sworn to secrecy. We don't tell anybody until it hits the screen, and then we let the audience find out on their own.
It is an unusual sensation to not know anything about what you're going to see. I mean, I can't remember the last time that even happened to me. I mean, the closest approximation you can have is when you're a child and you have no background for any of the films you're seeing, and they're just being put on, and that's your first introduction to a certain type of cinema or a certain actor or a certain director, and probably even before you're able to comprehend what any of that even means. But there is something wonderful about that experience, even if we can't actually experience it as adults.
Yeah, and what's wrong with seeing something with the eyes of a child, right?
You wish you could get back to that all the time without
No kidding.
we're all so jaded now.
Yeah.
We've seen so much that it's really hard to muster up that enthusiasm. Because the favorite things that ever happened when you're a kid. Those things stay with you, and it's because you're writing new memories and writing new experiences.
Well, it's all based on emotion, right? That's the first thing that I think about when I'm watching a film is what effect it's having on me. What are my feelings as I'm watching the film, and how is that either changing my perspective or adding to my perspective? All of the sort of meta narratives that go on with people and actors and directors and what they were doing at the time, that can fall away, and you can just experience the film, the message that the filmmakers were trying to send to the audience. You can then receive it without any of this extra stuff around you, and just experience that emotion purely as a cinematic experience without thinking. You can have the emotional reaction first, and then you can think about it later.
How do you go about selecting the prints that you're going to show at the festival?
Well, in the beginning, when we were starting to do this, it was probably about half of our prints. So Deb has been here for 20 years now, and she's been doing a lot of work in the Nitrate collections, and she has maintained this idea that when we come across something in the Nitrate collection that is projectable, you need to note that. And she's got this huge spreadsheet of all these titles that are available to us to screen. And then contacting the other American archives, they generally have short lists of things that they know that are projectable Nitrate prints that they sort of bring out for show when they're asked about it. But the wonderful thing about this festival is actually having it every year has prompted not only American archives, but archives around the world to reinvestigate their Nitrate collections to see what is projectable. So whereas the first couple of years we were trying to dig into collections and asking people to look at this or asking people to look at that, like with UCLA, they didn't know it was a toned print. When they looked at it, they said, oh, wow, this is great. And now they're actually giving us lists of things that are projectable on Nitrate, and it's a little bit easier for us to pick, but we still want to balance it out. We still want to give that sense of balance to make sure that everyone is going to see something that they enjoy while they're here, whether it's a musical, color, or black and white, making sure we get as many archives involved as possible, whether they're coming from Russia or Japan or France, because, as I said, these people are all doing great work, and it would be a shame to have that work go to waste and not have these films fulfill their destiny, the things that the reason that they were created by coming to Rochester and being shown on the big screen.
Do you have specific ideas in mind? So say you've got a film, you know that it's got to be available somewhere. Do you actively hunt them down? Do you go on these archaeological expeditions to these different archives and just start sifting through all the stacks?
Yeah. I'm going to the Library of Congress actually 2 weeks after the Nitrate Picture Show this year to start digging in their vaults. I'll be down there for a week. So, and I did it last year too, and I think Jared did it 2 years prior. Mm-hmm. So, working with the staff down there at the library, they're very supportive of the festival. They give us prints every year to review and project. And the staff down there, they kind of dig through the months prior, and then they say, "Hey, Deb, here's some things we have. Do you want to look at it while you're, do you want to come down and look at it?" So I do, and I get a chance to go through their cataloging system and look through titles that so we can select, what's a Nitrate positive print, what, if it's marked complete or incomplete. We can just knock things off pretty quickly that way, looking at their inspection records, is it shrunken, and then kind of narrow down a list. And the guys down there, Larry and George, do a really good job of narrowing down as much, and then they give lots of suggestions too, because they both George has been to the festival I think every year now. I'm pretty close to every year.
Pretty close.
And so he kind of knows what we want to program, what we're looking for. And he's got that great cinema lover sense of humor where he tries to find something really weird in the Library of Congress collections and pulls it out, and we take a look at it. So we do have things in the program this year, again, from the Library of Congress. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it's, even though the festival, we don't stop when it's over, I'll take like a week off, and then I go right back into it, and I'll be down at the library. Actually, I think I'm leaving on Mother's Day this year. I'm leaving on the 15th of May, something like that. I better send my mom a Mother's Day card before. But yeah, so I'll be down there for a week doing that, and going to MoMA. We do go to MoMA. I'm not going this year. We're sending another colleague, but they're going in April, just in 2 weeks. Actually, they'll be down there and also looking at stuff for the following year. Actually, I just got a print in from somebody in Atlanta, and for the 2020 festival, they want us to look at. So it's ongoing. We get people just calling us saying, "Hey, I found some nitrate. Are you interested? Maybe you can program it." So it's funny what's been coming out of the woodwork, but it's been really a pleasant surprise, I have to say.
Yeah, there are some archives that have their holdings online, and you can sort of do a more targeted search for those kind of things. For instance, several of our festivals have been very close to Orson Welles' birthday. Yeah. So I can sort of plug in Orson Welles and see if anything is available at those particular archives that's on Nitrate. But the other archives have been great partners with us. They've been so helpful in helping us find things that we may not even have thought of. Something like Trade Tattoo from MoMA, which is a short animated thing. Len Lai did it in Great Britain back in the 40s. It's about the postal system, but it's so avant-garde and weird and wonderful that that's something that MoMA brought to us, and we're like, yeah, that's fantastic. I'm going to put that in the festival. So having these colleagues all across the world has been a great boon to us, knowing that they have the same interests and the same love of cinema at their heart that we do.
It sounds a little bit like a spy network, except for movies.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Yeah. It's a great way to talk to your colleagues in the field and to meet new people who are interested in film. And I think in a way it kind of revives us in what we do here in an archive, and that people really are interested. I'm not spending all my time in the basement or in the nitrate vaults. They're 40-degree temperature vaults. It's very cold in our vaults. And I'm not freezing in there for no reason. Right. That there is a purpose behind all of this, not just preservation and access, but also just conservation and introducing these films to a new audience. And in many cases, they've been new to me too, because there's been a lot of films we've shown that was actually my first time ever even seeing the film. And I missed these huge gaps in my film history knowledge. So it's been actually very educational for us as well.
All right, let's sell some passes maybe. So this year's festival, the Nitrate Picture Show, takes place on May 3rd to the 5th.
Yes.
This is the festival's 5th year.
Yes.
And we're talking about how affordable it is relative to the Turner Classic Movie Festival. So passes for that are upwards, I think the base pass is $600 and something.
TCM, yeah.
I try not to linger on it too much. You pay it up in advance, and then you kind of forget about it. But the Nitrate Picture Show, you can get a pass for $125. Is that correct?
For students and members of the
low category, all the way up to the $250 range for very special people.
Well, those are our patron passes. Those are people that love this project so much that they just want to give a little bit extra, and we do try to give them some gifts when they come that are special, different from the regular passes. This year we're giving away a book which is just being published now.
Today's
publication day. There's going to be a book signing, and we're giving them some free food, some extra free food too. But there are people who have signed up as patrons every year of the festival, and they just keep on coming back, and we're so grateful for the support that they give us, because that really makes it worthwhile. It makes it viable for us to do this every year.
Mm-hmm.
And you said there's no running around Hollywood Boulevard and forcing your way into lines, getting your cues. Like, this is low key. You know where you're going at all times. And I know that may seem like, oh, well, you don't have choices, but choices are terrible too sometimes. And this way you're seeing things that maybe you wouldn't get exposed to otherwise if you had you had your druthers about you. And that's a wonderful experience too, because some of the some of the movies that I've become most attached to are the ones I wasn't going to see, and for some reason or another, I got dragged into them, or I was in the right place at the right time, and I saw something that wasn't on my radar.
Yeah, same, because I've been to Telluride a couple of times. Same thing. You're not running all over in the mountains trying to get to screenings on time, and those tickets are even more expensive than TCM.
Yeah.
And then actually at the end of May, I'm going to another film festival, but this one is more just 16 millimeter in a ballroom in a hotel in Columbus, Ohio. So there's a big variety of film festivals out there, and I like to think that we're not on the high end, but we're not in the very low end. We're the kind of festival, if you've never been to a film festival before, this is a good place to start. Not only are you starting with Nitrate Cinema, the beginning of cinema, but you're also getting, the low-key experience in the city of Rochester. We're not an overly large city, but we're not so small there's nothing else to do. And it's really beautiful here in May.
Yeah.
The lilacs are blooming. We're known for our lilac collection here. And the gardens here at the museum and the mansion are spectacular. And so with your pass you don't just get to see movies, but you get all access to the museum. So you could take docent tours, you can visit the gardens, you can see where George Eastman had lived, the home he had built. You can see the gallery spaces. We have some really good exhibitions up right now. The pass also does include the Saturday night reception. Mm-hmm. So that will be after the last screening on Saturday. So it'll be a little bit later at night, but a chance to get some coffee or a glass of wine and some food and relax a little bit. Talk to people, talk about your experiences before we go into our final day on Sunday.
And with TCM, every time that there's a Nitrate screening, you're choosing that anyway. Here, it's all Nitrate screenings. If you're a TCM and you're not choosing the Nitrate screening, you're wrong. Here, it's Nitrate all the time, so you don't have to worry about making that bad choice.
Mm-hmm.
And I did look up that holiday screening at TCM this year, and it is not a Nitrate print. It is a DCP of a new restoration. So
probably from that Nitrate print.
Probably from that Nitrate print. Actually, I bet it is from that Nitrate print.
Well, here's a little behind the scenes. Last year, when we asked UCLA to look into it, they discovered it was a toned print. They sent it out to be scanned before they could send it here. They sent it out to be scanned for picture and then for sound before they sent it. So I know that they have a scan of it, and that may be the restoration.
The restoration, because it was a beautiful print.
Yeah.
Well, it's a shame they're not showing it, but I can okay.
Yeah, it doesn't mention anything about the specific source or the tint, so.
Yeah.
Well, we did talk a little bit about bringing back festival favorites in the future.
Yeah.
And
maybe that's something we can do in a future year.
Yeah. That's actually not a bad idea. We did talk about, what people have missed, because, the festival, as word gets out and people are becoming interested, they're realizing what they'd missed in the past. But we don't want to show that, okay, we showed it once, it can never be shown again. We're glad to see it is being, a lot of them are being reprogrammed at TCM and other places that can show Nitrate. But also we'd like to just bring maybe some of the select ones back here to say, hey, just because you didn't see it doesn't mean it's gone forever.
Yeah.
Part of conservation is to keep it going. So we did talk about bringing things back like that.
So this is the 5th year, and it's a nice round number, and we're looking at a couple of different things that we may change going forward to maybe even get more people interested or get the word out about Nitrate screenings. You want to talk about any of that?
Sure. You want me to start?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So one of the things that has been pointed out to us over the past several years is that the dates of the festival are right at the time when a lot of university students and professors are doing their finals and grading papers and attending to the last of what they need to do to graduate. So in 2020, we are moving the festival to June. It will be June 4th through the 7th of 2020. And the goal is, because we've even had people this year write us letters of apology saying, I'm really sorry to miss it. I have to be home grading papers. And we said, okay, you know what? Let's move it to a time when we know more people can come, because May is great, but June could be better. So we did want to say that the festival is in May this year, but in next year, keep an eye on the dates. It's moving in 2020. It's moving to June.
And I do have one patron who always reminds me it's the same weekend as the Kentucky Derby. Hi, Shirley. Shirley's right there.
Yeah, it is the same weekend as the
That tends to be a problem for the very few.
That small subsection of classic film and horse racing aficionados have an issue.
Hat connoisseurs.
Did you want to do the other thing we've noticed on all 5 years? What we have programmed that's in common every 5 years?
Well, now you have to because you teased it.
It's a teaser, but there's been a cow.
Oh, yeah.
We've noticed every year we've had a film that
At
had
least one
film
had a cow.
Had a cow in it. So we have a film with a cow again this year.
Now we're going to have to make it a tradition.
We're going to make it a tradition.
Spot the cow.
Yeah, there's no way around that now. You're stuck with the cow theme.
Yeah, we have to. It's called Spot the Cow, which you would not think in Rochester, but yeah, Spot the Cow. Hey, George Eastman used to have cows on this property when he lived here. He was a gentleman farmer, and back where the archive building is, that used to be his pasture where he used to keep his cows.
And brought them in during the winter.
Brought them in the winter in the basement. If anybody asks me, I'll show you where the troughs are in the basement of the mansion. If you catch me in a moment where I don't look busy, I'll show you where that is.
You're not going to show them. You can tell them.
I can tell them about it.
I think you definitely need to embrace this cow thing.
Yeah.
Any specific kind of cow? I mean, I'm not exactly a farmer, but
There's been British cows. No. But they're in
French cow.
No, French. No, we don't want to talk about the French cow. Yeah. No, in Black Narcissus, there's a cow.
Oh yeah.
And they're in.
Oh yeah.
Presumably Indian or
Indian, but I think it was made in the UK. But there you go, an Indian/British cow.
Yeah, got it from a zoo.
But yeah, we've had cows in every. We realized that the other day. We're like, we're just gonna have to find it. That's another way to keep it challenging next year.
Lots of westerns.
Yeah, we'll just every western will have a quick one that takes place on a cattle steer ranch somewhere in Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, no, it's gonna be fantastic this year. We're really looking forward to it. My office is filled with swag to give away to all the patrons. I'm getting crowded out of my office right now. So at least come and get some free stuff. Enjoy some movies, get some free stuff, tell your friends.
And the films are not the only thing that we do here this weekend. It's a celebration not only of the film as it's viewed on screen, but also of the artifact. And one of the great things that we've done is called the Nitrate Touch, where you can actually interact with reels of film that are on display, sort of. They're being inspected by students and staff of the museum who have them out. And there's a schedule of these things, so you can see several different things across the weekend. But you can put on a glove, you can actually feel the film. It's that tactile experience, gets you even closer. That's something that we lose with digital, right, where it's coming in over the airwaves and it's sitting on a server. There's nothing physical there that you're interacting with. These prints that we're showing, particularly Martin Scorsese's prints, this is the film that he saw, the same print that he saw. Or we've got films from David O. Selznick, where these are the films that were in his collection. And he either previewed them for release in America, or after he made them, he put them in his personal collection. So
yeah, that print of The Man Who Knew Too Much was David O. Selznick's personal print, and we believe he used to watch it with Alfred Hitchcock, because they did talk for a while about the remake going through Selznick, but it didn't end up going through, was it United Artists or Paramount? But we could just imagine that print, the provenance behind it, and the people who had viewed it before we did, and what their intentions were and what they imagined with it.
But the museum as a whole does so much more than just this festival or programming. So we offer tours, as Deb said, of the Nitrate vaults, where people can go and see how the film is stored. We have tours of the technology collection. So we have probably the world's best collection of photographic and cinematographic technology, the machines used to shoot the film, process the film, all of that kind of stuff. We have a workshop that has been every year since the beginning. People make nitrate film right in front of your eyes. So there's a little preparation that has to be done ahead of time, but they've got the dupe and they cast it flat and they smooth it out and it dries out and you've got a piece of nitrate film. Then they slit it and they perforate it and you can see exactly how they made this film on a much smaller scale, obviously, than the factories that Kodak could handle. But this is something that our historic photographic technicians do on a regular basis, is they investigate and recreate all these historic processes that you can use to make your own images. And for the first time this year, we are actually giving a tour of Film Preservation Services, which is the digital side of the George Eastman Museum, where people can go and see how the film is handled before it goes into the scanner, how it's scanned, and then how it's corrected afterwards. Particularly with the silent films that we do, there's often a tint to it that is not picked up in the scanner, and we need to add that back in and try to make it look as close to the original as possible. So some of these tours are still available for sale online. They are all on Friday, and none of them interfere with any of the screenings. So as you're buying your pass, look to see which ones are still available and add a couple of those on. I don't think you'll be disappointed at all.
Yeah,
you can buy all those tickets and passes at eastman.org/nitrate-picture-show.
Or eastman.org/NPS. Makes it easy.
Oh, well, that made mine seem superfluous.
Yeah.
Now, I think that has everything that I wanted to talk about. If you have any last words, or hey, why not, Deborah? Since I shared my breakfast place with you at on Hollywood Boulevard across from the Egyptian, what's the good breakfast place in Rochester that we need to hit?
Hey, how come Andrew gets to get up?
That's right.
If he gets up, we'll all get up. It'll be anarchy.
Oh, there's quite a few. There's the Highland Park Diner.
That's the first one I was thinking of.
It is an institution here. It's just down on, was it Goodman and Clinton Street? Yep. And it's in an old railway car. And you can get huge, I get the Monte Cristo when I'm there. I get these huge breakfasts. And it's great because across the street is the oldest continuously running cinema in the United States. It's just called the Cinema. And it's bright pink. You can't miss it. And they just do second-run films now. They did switch to DCP a few years ago. But the Highland Park Diner is good. And then there's another one that opened within walking distance at the museum. And it's called, I have it written down here, because we do put in our program a list of places to eat nearby. But it's called the Mad Hatter. And they do amazing pastries and dessert things. So while California, what I loved about the breakfast place that Jay took me to,
I can never remember the name of it. I just know where it is.
I know where it is. I remember where it is near the Egyptian. But every time you order anything, it comes with a slice of a fresh orange because that's California for you, and that's what I miss and love about California. Here you don't get that. Here you get the big heavy pastries dripping with lots of gooey, sugary goodness, and your big thick cup of coffee. So that's what we do here. But yeah, Highland Park Diner I recommend, Mad Hatter I recommend, and then actually our cafe will be open before the screenings, where you can also buy pastries and tea and everything like that, coffee. And we're actually going to have lunch trucks during the festival this year. One of them will be a healthy truck, believe it or not, and we're also going to have buffet lunches through our cafe, so people can get some nourishment between screenings and not break their bank buying really expensive food. It's going to be very reasonably priced, good solid food.
If I had gone with you to TCM, I would have taken you to Scooby's, which was also not far from the Egyptian.
Yeah.
It's gone now.
Oh.
I miss Scooby's.
What was the Miso and Frank's?
Musso and Frank's.
Musso and Frank's.
Oh, yeah.
I did get there once.
Oh, great.
That's what was a lot of fun.
That's so classy.
Yeah.
I saw Barbara Streisand coming out of there the last time I was there.
Oh, I was seeing episodes. What is it? Grace and Frankie.
Oh yeah.
The first season they shot part of it at Musso and Frank's, and I just was laughing because I was like, I've been there. I had meals there too. So anyway, yeah, we regress again.
Yeah, it's natural.
Yeah.
All right, and since before I let you go, and since this is the Cinema Shame podcast,
yeah, I'm gonna do Cinema Shame.
I'm gonna need one confession of a very prominent film that you have not seen, and then the promise to follow up on that viewing.
Oh.
So this is not only the confession, but I need some initiative too.
See, I thought we were going to do confessions for things we've already seen.
Oh no.
Oh boy.
No. This is what this show is about. We force people to finally watch those cinematic oversights that they've long been putting off.
Well, I was going to tie it. We were talking before about Bachelor of the Bobby Sox, which I hadn't seen, but Razor's Edge was a real discovery for me, and Edmund Goulding. I think he's due for a rediscovery. What's something he's done? Watch something Edmund Goulding has done.
I admit I've never seen Rocky.
Well, we did a 3-part episode.
3-part episode.
Wow.
Well, we Raquel Stetcher, who is a friend of mine that I met first at the Turner Classic Movie Film Festival, she had never seen any of the Rocky films. So I said, why don't we try all of them? So
well, I did see Creed, the first Creed film, which makes me want to go back and watch Rocky, but it's just I haven't had time to do it. And I really need to see Creed 2 when it was in the theaters. And we have a lot of discount theaters in Rochester, and I don't know if it's still playing or not, but I wanted to see Creed 2. But yeah, I haven't seen Rocky.
Okay, here's what you need to do with that. You need to go through, because Creed 2, I don't know if you need to see the Rockies.
Okay.
But it is basically a sequel to Rocky 4, so it's like Rocky 4 Part 2.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
You can still enjoy it perfectly well on its own.
Yeah, because I remember... Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, but there's a lot carried over from Rocky 4 specifically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I remember in Creed 1, obviously the iconic scene where Rocky's running up the steps of the Philadelphia Museum of Art, he puts his hands up. And I remember seeing in Creed, he can't really run up that much because he's supposed to have cancer and he's sick. And I thought, okay, crap, I really need to watch the original Rocky movie to really, because I've seen that clip, but obviously it relates to much, much more in the original film. Like, yeah, I need to go and I need to watch that. So I promise you I will watch it and let you know when I see it.
All right, that's perfect. It really is a lovely movie. It's not what most people expect.
That's what I've heard. I always think, it's just going to be this big fighting film. I mean, I've seen Raging Bull. I've seen boxing films before. The setup, I love the setup.
Oh yeah.
But it's like one of those films. I don't know. Something about the films from the 70s. It's like I really haven't seen a lot of them. But then when I do see them, because I went and saw The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Actually, I saw it with Jay at TCM last year.
That's a great film.
And I had never seen it before, and I was so impressed. And I was really excited to see it because I really got caught into it. So there's
it's such a tight movie.
Yeah, it really was. And I really need to watch more films, I think, from that era. And
to watch more Walter Matthau.
Yeah, I really should. I really should.
I think that's good advice for everybody. just more Walter Matthau. I think the Walter Matthau movie. We actually, another one we talked about on this show was Bad News Bears. And how the Bad News Bears has kind of gotten pushed aside in this new era of PC movies, where we kind of we have to acknowledge that some of these movies are offensive. But the Bad News Bears is a movie that people really do need to go back and take a look at, and forget what they know about the language or even the time it was made. It's a wonderful film with terrific central performances.
Yeah, that's what I call a 70s PG.
Yeah.
That's one of those where the parents were actually supposed to be guiding the children and watching it with them instead of just sending them off to get them away.
Now, did your kids see it? Jared has 2 boys that are really into baseball.
They have not seen the original yet, no.
Oh, they haven't seen the original. No. Okay. You're going to make them watch? You're going to watch it?
I know I have it on DVD at home, yeah.
Oh, okay.
We'll get through it at some point.
Okay.
So I've got one for myself now.
There you go.
I went through Edmund Goulding's filmography. I have never seen Grand Hotel.
You're kidding.
Really?
Yeah.
That counts.
I was ambitious then. We were drilled like little soldiers. No rest, no stop. I was little, slim, but hard as a diamond. Then I became famous and... But why am I telling you all this? Last night I didn't know you at all.
I am Felix Benvenuto Freiherr von Geigen. My mother called me Flix.
No, Flix. Oh, that's sweet. And how do you live? And what kind of a person are you?
I'm a prodigal son, the black sheep of a white flock. I shall die on the gallows.
Yeah, that counts.
I'm looking at you like, huh? Wow.
I'm only 48. Give me some time.
Yeah.
I saw Grand Hotel in Harvard Square. That was at the Brattle Theater in Harvard Square. They had they showed that. I can't remember what the theme was that month, but that was my first exposure to that. So that was about 13 years ago. I first saw that movie.
I was just reading about the Brattle Theater. That's such an institution. I've never been there. It's a place I need to go to.
It's wonderful. When I think about how much I miss Boston and living in Boston, that's number one on my list, because I used to be a member and I lived like an 8-minute walk away from it.
Mm.
And I would, I think at the time I felt like I went to a lot of movies there, and now I look back, I'm like, I clearly didn't go to enough.
No.
Can I try to find it on Nitrate first?
Sure.
Yeah.
You can wait as long as there's intention, as long as there's a goal.
Yeah. Yeah. You need to watch that.
Yeah.
I think the first time I saw it was on TCM on television.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I have it on DVD now. I think it's in my Greta Garbo box set.
Makes sense.
But yeah, I think the first time I saw it, TCM really. I mean, I grew up in Fresno, California. Not a lot of cinema culture there. So if you asked me that question 20 years ago, what name a film you should see that you haven't seen, I could probably list out 100 of them. The TCM was, I remember when we had that, it was really a way to just open the doors to really explore my love for cinema and figure out, what is it I want to do with the rest of my life? What is it what I want to accomplish? And I have to say that TCM really helped me find my way, because I remember AMC used to have that film preservation.
Sure.
What did they have? It was like a fundraiser that they would do, and the George Eastman Museum used to get money from that AMC fundraiser back in the day. But then they changed their programming, and then it was just TCM, and it was fantastic. It really actually just changed my life. I have to thank TCM for that. I really do.
I think we covered all of our bases. Then I've got confessions, and hopefully we sold some more passes there.
Yeah.
And I think this is great, and it was good having you both on to talk about your love of film and the Nitrate Picture Show.
Yeah,
thank you for having us. Yeah, thank you for having us.
David Lynch doesn't a pinch, but I'll take Wells to ring my bells. Alice Stone's got the bone, to pick with Jones about to loan. What Ethan Cohen without knowing, lent the feet to old Angley who called Gallium a silly one, and dashed around at Gus Van Zandt. Gave young Quentin about the van, but Tarantino, evil Sino, then they please to Curtis, to stop her and Paul and Timber, and with that shot, Ridley Scott, blue tie, the no Spike Lee's yacht, wearing white, but from him night, his old Prince Lang softly sang, his sense of looks to Mel Brooks, who was throwing rocks at Howard Hawks, hiding in a hole with Cohen Joe, which was hot as a burner, thanks to Werner, hot as a burner, thanks to Werner, hot as a burner, thanks to Werner, who steaming Joe Menfo Truffaut had hit the hood of C. Eastwood, that well-known meanie, who like Fellini thought absurd, Soderbergh's claimed that famous Harold Ramis was the greatest director in the history of cinema.
You have chosen wisely.